Good evening. This is the weekend review and preview for Saturday, September 4th, 2021. Basically, we're going to do a review of the week just ending and a preview of the next week coming up. Again, disclaimer, this is not professional advice. I don't hold any licenses or certifications. So it's not advice of any kind. Fair use policy, basically under certain limited usages, other items may be used that have been copyrighted and trademarked, but under fair use policy are allowed to be used. Basically, several things for the week that just went by. On Thursday, the jobs report looks like it was a big miss, something around 370,000. So it looks like the whole talk about of the reopening boom is probably going to be a bust, meaning that the jobs report's just going to continue to limp along at much lower levels. Bad thing about that is it's going to take quite a while probably to reabsorb the millions that were out of work. The week that just ended, even though officially the last date is September 6th, basically most people for their week that ends on Saturday, this week will be the last week that they get the CARES Act extended unemployment, which for most people will be people who have been unemployed for more than 26 weeks, and also people that were getting the extra $300 per week that they were unemployed. In spite of all that and the millions out of work, the stock market hit all-time high. Gold continues to go nowhere, in spite of the massive spending going in on it. Bitcoin's been recovering, and this week hit over 50,000. It's still off from its high of around 60 to 65,000, but it's recovered off of its lows of around 30,000. Rent and eviction freezes are probably going to come to an end within the next 2 months, and then the question is what happens next. Strange labor shortages. Again, I've seen where in some areas, like Burger King, that's only open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. basically, and they even posted due to lack of workers. Other people in other parts of the country, even places that didn't really have lockdowns or mandates or anything, like South Dakota, places that would normally open for 6 a.m. for breakfast aren't opening till 7 or 8 due to lack of people. And other places that would usually be open until evening for dinner have been advertising that they would only open till 6 p.m. And then the Labor Day weekend weather's been okay. Actually, it's interesting, a week ago today was sort of like the end of summer weather-wise. The Friday before that was warm, actually hot, even miserable hot, even up at the beach. But the next day it was like 10, so instead of being like in the 80s and almost 90s even at the beach, it was in the high 60s. So it was clearly the end of summer weather-wise last Saturday. And then the next day, actually, it was going out and around, like I usually do, around 8 a.m. It was actually below 60 and almost sweater-like weather. So those are some of the interesting things from last week. Let me just take a look at the... that's interesting. Alright, so the preview of the next week. Again, I mentioned about how this is the end of the extended unemployment. So basically, people who are on unemployment tomorrow, in most states, they'll be able to file for this week. And then sometime during the week, they'll get their check. And then the question is what happens after that. If they're still out of work, their income is basically going to be zero. I also wonder if the stock market can keep going. Again, it's extremely unusual with millions out of work that the stock market's at an all-time high. One of the strange distortions with the labor shortages, and also even in some cases production shortages, Are they going to come to an end now that, like, the theory is that people have been deliberately not going to work, at least the ones that were getting more on unemployment? Or are we going to discover, as I believe we are, that actually we're going to have an extra few million people that are now like stuck permanently unemployed from all of the businesses that were ruined during the lockdowns and never recovered? And then the fourth big thing is what happens when the rent and evictions freezes ends. My prediction is that there's a number of landlords, especially small landlords, that once they can sell off their building, which probably is going to require them to evict the tenants that haven't paid, since without a massive discount, who's going to want to buy a building with a tenant in it that they can't get out, that they're now going to want to get out of real estate, especially if real estate's still in the middle of going through its own boom. Normally when things are going bad for real estate, you usually are just hoping to break even or minimize your losses. Here, because of the way things have been going and the ultra low interest rates, even landlords in a situation where they've lost all kinds of money might be able to book some sort of large gain still on the sale. And I also asked the question with the rent and eviction moratoriums, does anybody really own a building if you're paying all the expenses but can't collect any income on it? Debt ceiling is coming up. I actually need to do some research. Almost nobody talks about it. It's supposed to be, the last I recall, sometime this year. And then also some details I expect we should be hearing soon. The 3.5 trillion in spending. Federal government fiscal year ends September 30th. So they should be either submitting some sort of budget or some sort of continuing resolution for the fiscal year October 1st. And then going forward, the main prediction I think is most likely is what people are calling a crack up boom. Basically, the economy falls apart, actual demand falls off a cliff, but because there's so much inflation or hyperinflation, nominal prices still continue to rise. So it looks like just on a price basis that there's a boom going on, because like the stock market and everything's going up, but what's really going on is just nominal prices are rising. It's actually most of the economy is just limping along or is dead. And I'm just checking to see. It still says not really sure if this is just recording like a regular video or if it's really doing something else. So I'd like to thank you for your time. Please like and subscribe. Questions and comments are welcome. And I look forward to talking to people next week.